Hello, my name is Aviva, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys some of my favorite grumpy sunshine wrecks. So first of all, I didn't even know that like grumpy sunshine trope was like a thing. I never really heard about it until like last week, and then once I heard it, I'm like, oh my god, so many of my favorite romance books are grumpy sunshine, and I had no idea that I love this trope. So basically, I'm going to be sharing with you guys 10 of my favorite grumpy sunshine wrecks today, only because I only just realized that this was an actual thing. It happens to be the book that I read yesterday, which is The Wall of Winnipeg, is like the best grumpy sunshine book like you might ever pick up, and therefore I was like, oh my god, perfect time to like actually make a video about this, only because I just read a really good grumpy sunshine book, and now I actually get what the trope is, so I feel like I could give you guys some good wrecks. Oh, and also in case you're not familiar with what grumpy sunshine is, only because like, you know, up to last week I wasn't aware of what it was either. It's basically when like the main guy is like a very grumpy person. He's not like a very like, you know, like let's go out of my way to like, you know, try to be friends with you sort of thing. Like he's just like standoffish or something like that. He's just like a grump. And then the girl is like the one that is all like positive and out there and trying to be friends with the other person, or even if not, like he's trying to be friends, like the sort of thing where like she's just a sunshine and he's just a grump. And I never realized that this was a thing, but I actually love this trope. Either way, the first book that I'm going to be sharing with you guys is The Wall of Winnipeg, which I just read yesterday, and it's honestly kind of giving me a book hangover. I have a feeling that like after I make this video, I'm going to do like a quick reread of this, or even just like skim through it, only because it was so amazing. It's basically like an extremely slow burn romance. Mariana Zapata is known for her very slow romances, and basically like this is no different. If you're not familiar, it's about this girl who is basically working for like this very famous football player, and like she was kind of like his assistant, and one day she decides that she wants to quit because she's kind of like done doing that. She kind of wants to work for herself and do her own thing, and basically, you know, she's had enough of him. And either way, like a month later, he kind of shows up at her doorstep and is like, you gotta come back, I really need you. And then the story kind of goes from there. So like the whole time she was working for him, he didn't really like, you know, be nice to her and all that sort of stuff, and that's why she like never felt like appreciated, and she's like, I don't want to come back, I don't want to work for you again, and all that sort of stuff. And then, you know, he offers her some things, and obviously she's going to say yes, and is going to get a little bit more complicated than that. And either way, this book was just amazing. So it's basically an extremely slow burn between this football player and then his ex-assistant, and you kind of get to follow him as he kind of comes out of his shell and realizes that like football isn't the only thing in the world, and like maybe you could have like a relationship with someone sort of thing. So either way, it was absolutely adorable. Like I'm not even explaining it right, and I feel like you can never explain a Mariana Zapata book correctly, because it is like, it's so uniquely written. Like it's so slow burn, but like in a way that like it's not gonna bother you. Like you're not gonna be like missing out and being like, oh my god, get to the like romance part already. Like it's absolutely amazing. I really like felt the angst in this book like right from the beginning, so I had something to latch onto, and I absolutely love both characters. I mean, Aiden, he was the grump, and he was like the best grump you'll like might ever read. I kind of kept thinking of him as like the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. The way that he is like kind of like explained is as one of those like really big football players, because he's like, I don't know football, but he's the one who like, you know, stops people from like running into the quarterback sort of thing. And either way, like he kind of reminded me of like the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. So, you know, if you're a fan of that, then like the entire time I was reading this book, I was just picturing like, you know, a fake fictional, like, you know, animated like Beast sort of character, but it was great. So either way, I totally recommend this book, and this was one of like the best grumpy sunshine books I might have ever read. So next up, I actually have the only other Mariana Zapata book I have read so far, even though that will hopefully not be the case for a while, because I plan to get a lot more of her books. But either way, it's All Roads Lead Here, and this is another grumpy sunshine. So this is basically about this girl. She recently got divorced, and she decides to move back to her like small hometown where she grew up with her mother, and like start her life over again, only because, you know, she's been married to this guy for like, you know, 14 years or something, and she kind of just wants to like, you know, have a fresh start like by herself. And when she gets there, she ends up renting this like garage from this guy who didn't know that she was renting the place. Like his son kind of like rented it to her without his father knowing, and either way, like right off the bat, they don't really get along, because like the father didn't want like him renting the place out to anybody. So like he kind of says like, okay, you could stay, but like he wasn't happy about it. So like it's a very slow burn in the sense of like, you know, they're going to warm up to each other and then like slowly become friends, like this girl and then like the father of this boy sort of thing. And either way, in this book, you're kind of following this girl as she is like starting her life over. she gets another job. She's just like doing her own thing, trying to, like realize who she is without like a person attached to her sort of thing. And then you're also like gonna see this guy like slowly warm up to her, and like he's a very busy man. He's like a park ranger or something like that. And either way, like they're slowly gonna become friends and then like, develop feelings for each other. And then like his kid is in the picture too, and she's going to like befriend the kid and whatever. There's a lot of stuff going on, but either way, this is kind of like, a finding yourself book, and at the same time, you're gonna end up with like a romance at the end of it. And I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, I gave this book 5 stars too, but then after I read The Wall of Winnipeg, I realized that like this book was like not like on the same tier as like The Wall of Winnipeg, because I'm not the biggest fan of like contemporaries and like my romances. I kind of just like romances, and I felt like The Wall of Winnipeg was a little bit more of like a romance, because the two main characters, they were hanging out a lot more, and there was just a lot more like romantic things going on in the book. I can't really say it because it's like semi a spoiler. I mean, the thing I'm thinking of happens in like the first 100 pages, but at the same time, I don't really want to say it because I didn't see it coming. But either way, in that book, there's a lot of like more romantic things going on, and in this book, there's a lot more of like finding yourself. So like the first half of the book, she's kind of just like finding herself, and then the romance is like slowly going to trickle in, and I really enjoyed it, like how the slow burn happened and all of that sort of stuff, and I definitely recommend it. And also, this is like a huge grumpy sunshine, because this guy, he is like the biggest grump in the world. He's hardly ever around, and like he's just a grump. How more can I say it? And she's all like positive, trying to find herself sort of thing. So either way, it definitely fits into this grumpy sunshine trope. But also, like if you're going to choose like your first Mariana Zapata book, I would maybe choose The Wall of Winnipeg, realize how like Mariana Zapata writes, and then move on to All Roads Lead Here, because this was great, but The Wall of Winnipeg was way better. Next up, I have The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. So this is a enemies to lovers workplace environment sort of trope. These two people are working together. They're both assistants for like the owners of this company, and either way, they're always like messing with each other in the workplace, because their desks are like facing each other, and they have like this whole like game going on where they like just mess with each other in the middle of the day and all that sort of stuff. And either way, one day their bosses come and is like, one of you is going to get promoted and will end up being the boss of the other person, but they both hate each other. So like they're kind of like, I'm gonna have to quit if you end up being my boss, because I'm not gonna be able to handle that sort of thing. So then they start messing with each other even more, and then the enemies is going to turn into lovers somehow while they're messing with each other. So it's a really good book, and happens to be, this guy is like the epitome of a grump. He is so like standoffish and like boring, in the sense of like people think he's boring, but like you just got to get to know him to realize he's not really boring. And then this girl is like literally the epitome of sunshine. Like she's literally like colorful, and I forgot what it is that she always has on her desk, if it's like ladybugs or just colorful things. She's always coming in with like a smile on her face and all that sort of stuff, and this guy is like always in a suit and like has a straight line on his face, like he's never smiling, and he's always trying to do his work and that sort of stuff. So this is literally the epitome of like a grumpy sunshine sort of trope, as well as a really good enemies to lovers workplace environment thing. So I definitely recommend this book. If you haven't read it before, I don't know what you're waiting for. Next up, I have The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armez. So this is a more recent read for me than The Hating Game, and when I read The Hating Game, I thought it was going to be like the best enemies to lovers book I ever read, until I actually read this one, and I realized that this one is way better, because besides for the enemies to lovers, as well as the grumpy sunshine, which is a new trope for me, so I keep forgetting that it's actually a thing in this book, but besides for the enemies to lovers, the grumpy sunshine, there's also fake dating. So basically you get everything you got in a hating game, except you also get more in it. So basically, if you're not familiar with what this book is about, this is about a girl. She basically has to go home to her sister's wedding. Her sister is getting married in Spain, where she's from, and basically she kind of told her family that she's going to be bringing home a date, except she doesn't actually have a date, and also it was like a boyfriend, not even just a date. It was like a date slash a boyfriend, and basically she doesn't have any of that, and she kind of starts complaining to her friend that she works with while they're in work, and basically this guy overhears her and is like, I'll be your fake date, you could bring me to this wedding. And then she's like, but we don't even get along, like they're kind of rivals in the workplace, like why would you offer to come to my sister's wedding with me? And he's like, well, you don't really have another choice, so just take my offer. And then the first half of the book is kind of like seeing them as rivals in the workplace, while he's trying to convince her that she has no other option other than to take her. So they're kind of dealing with that whole aspect, which is very like hating games vibe. But then the second half of the book, they kind of do this whole fake dating, going to this wedding at like a destination sort of thing, because they're going all the way from like New York or someplace in America all the way to Spain. So it's got like a lot more to it other than the hating game. So if you are a fan of that, then I definitely recommend reading this. But also, if you haven't read the hating game and you like enemies lovers, grumpy sunshine, and fake dating, this is seriously the book for you. You won't be disappointed. So why was the soulmate equation Grumpy Sunshine? I cannot remember so much. Actually, while I start thinking about it, you know what? Okay, this guy, he basically like owned this company. It was like a DNA test sort of thing where they take your DNA and then they kind of find you like a soulmate through it. And this guy, he, I guess like only wanted to like deal with that until one day he gets like matched with this girl who like is 98% matched, and they've never had like a match that close, and their like company is about to go public or something like that. So he basically has to try to convince this girl that like, you know, start dating me even though we don't really get along, because, you know, we have to see if like my science and all that sort of stuff is right. And like they kind of like start doing that only because like she kind of needs the money, and honestly like they offer her money to do it only because like she's kind of like the test subject sort of thing. And obviously like a romance is going to bloom between the two of them, but happens to be like this guy, he wasn't really interested in like dating anybody because he's kind of like, you know, that science geek, like dealing with like a company, and like his whole life is about work and all of that sort of stuff. So he's very, very grumpy. He's kind of very standoffish. Like I'm pretty sure these two people, they like ran into each other for years, like in the same coffee shop. That's kind of how they met originally. And like, you know, he didn't say a word to her for like 5 years straight or something like that. So he's like a super, super grump. And she isn't necessarily like the epitome of sunshine, but she is the sunshine in this book. And I definitely think that the grumpy sunshine trope relates to this book very much. So if you're a fan of Grumpy Sunshine, as well as like Christina Lauren, because I don't know, I kind of like, you know, explain this book backwards, but this is Christina Lauren's most recent book. I love Christina Lauren, and she always writes a good book. Either way, if you are a fan of Christina Lauren and you haven't read this book yet before, I don't know what you're waiting for. If you like Grumpy Sunshine, then you should definitely try out this book. Make It Sweet by Christina Callahan. Literally on the back of the book, he was grumpy. Gruff. I mean, oh my god, what is wrong with me? Okay, let's try this again. Make It Sweet by Kristen Callahan. This is a new adult contemporary romance. It's about this guy. He is an ex-hockey player. He basically like recently got injured, and now he's kind of recovering and figuring out what he is going to do with the rest of his life, because he can't really play hockey anymore if he wants to, you know, like live an actual life and not like die at the age of 20. And then we have this girl who, she is a famous actress, and she recently got like booted off of her show. They killed off her character, and at the same time she finds out that her boyfriend has been cheating on her. So she's kind of having a really bad time, and she realizes that she has to kind of take a break, get away for a little, and she decides that she's going to go to this retreat sort of place that her grandmother told her about. And either way, when she gets there, she's going to meet this ex-hockey player because he happens to be living there because his grandmother owns the place. And either way, they're both going to just be like living on the grounds a little bit, trying to avoid each other, only because they're both kind of like doing their thing, trying to figure out their lives on their own. And even though that they were both attracted to each other like right off the bat, they don't really want to like start a relationship or have anything to do with each other, only because, you know, they're both dealing with things. And either way, they are slowly going to become friends, and then the romance is going to happen, and it's going to be very cute, very steamy, very adorable. I don't really have much more to say other than that, and the fact that this guy was a super grump to start with, and even though that this girl was like, you know, kind of grumpy also, she was also like the sunshine, definitely, only because she was, you know, all bubbly and like trying to figure out her life, and she was way more positive than this guy. So definitely Grumpy Sunshine fits into this book. And also, if you're into like new adult steamy romances, then you should definitely check this book out. Stay With Me by Mila Gray. This is another amazing, amazing Grumpy Sunshine rec. Like I said that like The Wall of Winnipeg was probably the best from this stack, but maybe this is like a close second slash maybe just as good in like a different way. This is a YA contemporary romance. It is the second book in a companion series called Come Back to Me, and basically all of those books kind of have like military-based romance. I recommend like the entire series overall, and you can read them in any order that you want, even though like some characters will show up in the other books. But either way, this is basically a standalone, and it's about this guy. He recently got injured in the military, and he is currently blind. So he's in this like wellness center place just trying to get better and, I don't know, fix his eyesight or whatever. And then you're following this girl, and she is currently interning at this wellness center because she is going to become like a psychologist or psychiatrist, one of those sort of things. And either way, when she gets there, she's going to run into this guy, and everybody's like, you know, just avoid him. He is like not in a good mood. He's a grump. Like nobody talks to him. He doesn't talk to a single person other than his doctors. And basically she takes it upon herself to try and befriend this guy. So she's going to slowly like crack him open out of his shell and, you know, get him talking, and they're going to become friends. And then they're obviously going to have a romance that's going to happen. So it's absolutely great. It kind of have a little bit of that forbiddenness to it, only because, you know, it's like a patient, like, you know, doctor sort of thing, only because she's not really supposed to like, you know, date any of the people who's there, even though she's an intern and not an actual doctor. So it's got like, you know, a smidget of that. But then also this is like the epitome of like a Grumpy Sunshine sort sort of thing. She's like such a positive person, trying to help all of these like depressed, like, you know, like hurt soldiers and all that sort of stuff. And he is like the biggest grump you might ever meet. He doesn't want to talk to a single person, and then somehow he talks to her. So it is absolutely adorable. I definitely recommend it. And if it sounds like something up your alley, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Like, take my recommendation like to heart. Like, you are going to like this book. By Your Side by Casey West. This is a YA contemporary romance. It was absolutely adorable. I gave it 5 stars when I read it. I really, really enjoyed it. And then obviously once I was looking for like, you know, Grumpy Sunshine Rex, I saw it. I'm like, oh my God, this is totally like a Grumpy Sunshine, even though it might not be like the best one out of the stack, but I feel like it's got that Grumpy Sunshine vibe. It's basically about this girl. She is in high school and she's really popular. She has a bunch of friends, and either way, they were all in the library, like, you know, studying, and then she basically like had to go to the bathroom, and they all got in the cars and they somehow left without her. And then she ends up getting stuck in the library over the weekend. I think it was like Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so it was like a long weekend, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, she thought she was alone until she finds out that someone is actually in the library with her, and it is like the weird guy from her school. Like, he is like, you know, the stand-off guy. Like, if you've ever read, like, I'm not read, like if you've ever watched The Breakfast Club, like, it's got those vibes of like, you know, that really bad boy, and then like, you know, that girl who was like the popular kid in school, and like they were all in detention. So this isn't detention, they're kind of like stuck there over the weekend, but it's got those Breakfast Club vibes because like you're in the library, you're dealing with high school, and like, you know, you've got that like bad boy, and then you've also got like, you know, this popular good girl. So you kind of have these two people stuck in the library together, and obviously at the beginning, like, he doesn't want to have anything to do with her. He's like, leave me alone, I'll see you at the end of the weekend when the doors open. And she's like, no, but I want to be friends, like, I have nothing to do, so like, come hang out with me. And basically they're slowly going to like, you know, start a friendship. And then obviously once they get out of the library, like, things are going to happen in the library, obviously, but once they're out of the library, basically they're going to start and try to like, you know, keep their friendship, even though they're from like opposite ends of the social circle. And obviously like a romance is going to develop and like all that sort of stuff. So either way, definitely recommend this book if you're into Grumpy Sunshines. I really think you're going to enjoy it. And also, this is like the only YA in this stack. All the rest of these books were like adult contemporary romances. So if you're looking for a good YA Grumpy Sunshine, then you should definitely check this book out. So next up, I have The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren. So I'm very new to the Grumpy Sunshine genre. So if you read this before and you think that it doesn't fit into the Grumpy Sunshine trope, then you might be right and I might be wrong. But basically, I read this book a really long time ago. And when I was looking for, you know, Grumpy Sunshine Rex, I'm like, you know what? I feel like this was a Grumpy Sunshine sort of thing. But I could be wrong. But either way, no matter what, this was a great book and I definitely recommend it. So if you like Christina Lauren, if you like adult contemporary romances, I definitely recommend reading this. But also, I think it was Grumpy Sunshine. It's basically about this girl. She's kind of been working for this like couple for a really long time, like ever since she was like 16 years old. Like, they used to own this like little shop in like her small town, and she was kind of like the girl who ran it. And then they eventually like grew and they started this whole like company around them, and now they're this like famous couple. They have like TV shows, they're interior designers, they make furniture, all that sort of stuff. And basically this couple is about to go on tour for a relationship book that they like just came out with, and basically they're kind of having like a bad relationship. Like, he's cheating on her and like they don't really get along, and this girl is like the assistant to them, so they kind of have to like, you know, work together to keep it under wraps so that the press doesn't get like a hold of the story that they're actually like not having a great relationship, because they're trying to promote like a relationship book. And either way, they're going to go on tour and this girl is stuck going with them. But besides from that, this guy who is the assistant to like the husband of this couple also has to go with them on tour, and he absolutely hates his job. He wasn't supposed to be an assistant, he was supposed to be like an engineer for one of their like TV shows, and he somehow got like stuck being the assistant. So he is like a huge grump. He doesn't really like his job. He doesn't really want to be there, do any of the work that he has to do. And this girl is just like, suck it up, this is my job too. Like, you're not the only one who is like stuck doing this crap. And either way, they're slowly going to like grow closer, even though like they don't really like each other, because they're obviously both assistants and whatever, they just don't get along. So either way, I really think that this definitely fits into the Grumpy Sunshine trope, only because what I remember from this book is that this guy was a super grump because he was very unhappy with his job, everything he had to do, all that sort of stuff. And this girl was kind of like, you know, I hate my job too, but like I'm trying to be positive about it. So, you know, Grumpy Sunshine. Either way, definitely recommend this book in general. If you haven't read it before, I don't know what you're waiting for. So last up on the list, I have This Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. And you know what? As I'm looking at all of these books, I realize that this might not be the best Grumpy Sunshine book out there. And I feel like if one of my friends who like recommended me this book sees this video, she's gonna be like, what the hell? Like, this is not Grumpy Sunshine. But honestly, I don't know why. I feel like this fit into the Grumpy Sunshine book. If you're not familiar with this book, it's basically about like this girl who, she lives in Toronto and she hasn't really ever like met her father because she kind of was born in Alaska, and when she was really little, her mother kind of like picked her up and left because like she didn't want to live in Alaska because it's like the middle of nowhere, and her father owns this like pilot company and he was always at work, and like I don't know, she just wasn't happy there. So she like took off her daughter and like left. And basically like this woman is now like older, like she was the kid. And now like she found out that her father isn't like doing well. He's kind of sick, and that she should come to Alaska and visit him before he dies, so that like, you know, like they could have some sort of relationship so that she doesn't regret it later in life. And basically she decides like, okay, I'm gonna go there. And when she goes there, she's going to meet one of the pilots that like works for her father's company. And basically they are not going to start off right, because he's kind of like, you don't belong here, you shouldn't be here, you are like this fancy like Instagram model, sort of like, you know, Toronto girl, and we don't like deal with you sort of people like up in Alaska. We have a very small knit community sort of thing. And either way, like they're obviously not going to start off right, and a romance is eventually going to bloom between the two of them. But I feel like this guy was a grump. I don't know why I'm saying like, oh, I don't think this was like a grumpy sunshine, but this girl was like the epitome of positive. She was trying to take like Instagram pictures with like the mountains in her background, and she was trying to be all nice and fluffy, even though like she was in a situation that she didn't really want to be in, you know, trying to get to know her father, going to this place in Alaska that like, you know, had no Wi-Fi and nothing like going on there. And then this guy is like, you know, leave, and then obviously like she's going to warm up to him and he's going to warm up to her, and you know, a romance will bloom. So, you know, it is a grumpy sunshine book, but for some reason, if I am wrong about this, then, you know, don't attack me in the comments. So that is all the Grumpy Sunshine books I'm going to be recommending for you today. I also had recently made like an enemies to lovers book recommendation video recently, because I'm trying to do like a bunch of different tropes that I really like and giving you recommendations, you know, like based off of tropes instead of like, you know, a different sort of category. So if you wanted to see like another one of like these trope videos and you had something that, you know, you wanted me to recommend for you, then let me know down in the comment section below like what you're looking for, because I'll try to like, you know, do it next or something like that. But either way, I'm going to have that enemies to lovers video linked in the description down below in case you want to check those recommendations out as well. And I wanted to also let you guys know that I recently signed up for this like Amazon affiliate sort of thing. So I'm basically going to start putting like all of the books that I talk about in all of my videos in the description down below with a link next to it, where it will take you to Amazon so that you could check out like how much the book costs, or like, you know, see more about the book if you're interested in reading it. And basically if you use the link in my descriptions, then I will get like a little bit of a commission off of like, you know, your purchase. If you end up purchasing something, it's not going to hurt you in any way. It's just like literally sending you to the Amazon site. It's not going to affect your purchase in any way. It's only going to help me out. So I would really appreciate it if you started like using my links to any of the books that like are semi like piquing your interest that I talked about. Either way, it will be in the description down below if you wanted to like help me out with that. You know, it will support my channel. But either way, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not currently subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button, because it will put a huge smile on my face. And like always, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And until next time, enjoy reading.